Alright guys, welcome to Flav Oriana's MMA show. I'm your host Flav Oriana, brought to you by Four Corner Sports. Alright guys, it's been more than 2 weeks since I made a video. Alright, sorry about that. Holidays, you guys know how that goes. But we are back. We are here to talk about the nominations between Male Fighter of the Year, Female Fighter of the Year, Male Prospect of the Year, Female Prospect of the Year, Knockout of the Year, Fight of the Year. We're gonna also talk about what we ended up seeing on ESPN MMA. They released their content on who is fighter of the year and female fighter of the year, and there's a little bit of controversy. There was a lot of talks on MMA Twitter about how why ESPN making these type of decisions. Like, do they not watch the sport or not? But we're here to talk about it right now, okay? So, I guess, why don't we start off with what ESPN ended up coming out, and then we're going to compare it to what I ended up projecting for Fighter of the Year, Female Fighter of the Year, and all that good stuff, all right? So, pulling up the ESPN MMA Twitter account, and you know what? The guys behind it, Brett Okamoto, Mark Ramundi, those guys, phenomenal stuff, right? But we have the male fight of the year. Now, it was between Charles Oliveira and Kamaru Usman, okay? Both excellent options right over there, okay? Now, Kamaru Usman, fought 3 times. Won all 3 times. First time he fought, February, I don't remember exactly the name of I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but he fought Gilbert Burns. The pay-per-view itself was kind of like a snoozer, in my opinion, because it was one of those cards where it's just like, man, I understand that a lot of people got sick. So, we're experiencing people getting sick right now, and you had a couple people pull out. And remember, the co-main event was Alexa Grasso versus Macy Barber. And if it wasn't for Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns, that card honestly could have been a very glorified fight night. But Usman ends up fighting his former teammate, his friend, Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns drops Usman in the first round, and then Burns ends up being Cody Garbrandt, seeing all red, and was trying to go for the kill. Usman was able to recapitalize and was able to knock out Burns, I believe, in the second round. Right, great test for Kamaru Usman. We were able to see that that he was able to get himself out of adversity. Second fight, he ended up fighting in 2021. He fought Jorge Masvidal. Now I like Jorge Masvidal. He's a fan. I'm a fan of his, right? And just the way that he ended up knocking out Jorge Masvidal, who Masvidal never has been knocked out in his UFC career. Usman just put him to sleep when, in my opinion, was one of the nominations of Knockout of the Year. And it was just a legendary, right hook that just put Masvidal to sleep. And there's that. And then the third fight Usman ended up fighting was at Madison Square Garden over here in New York for Colby Covington. I had scored it, 48-47 Usman. Usman ended up winning the first 3 rounds, and then Colby ended up winning the last 2. Colby thought he should have won the last 3 rounds, but to each his own. But Usman did win that fight. He dominated. There was some debate whether the second round could have been a 10-8 because he ended up dropping Colby and he was going for the finish. But I just felt that the way how the whole round transpired, and then later on, I don't think you were gonna be able to put that as a 10-8 round. But I'm glad it didn't finish in the second round, because we got to see a very great main event between Kamaru Usman and his rival, Colby Covington. So that was Kamaru Usman's 2021. Charles Oliveira's 2021 was, won the title against Michael Chandler. Drops first round, almost gets finished. Second round, within the 40 seconds into the second round, drops Chandler with a left hook, and then goes for the kill, and then is able to win by TKO, captures the lightweight title. come December, a couple weeks ago, ends up fighting Dustin Poirier, who that's a tough task for anybody that's going to be defending the belt for the very first time. Poirier ends up, dominating that first round in a 10-8 fashion, dropping Oliveira multiple times. And then in round 2, Oliveira was able to recapitalize himself using his jiu-jitsu, panning Poirier flat onto the ground, all right, dominating the round. And then going into round 3, you had Oliveira going underneath a hook, and then just jumping on the back of Poirier, going for the rear naked chokehold, forcing Poirier to tap out in round 3. And that was Oliveira's 2021. So he won the belt, defended the belt. There was some people that, were thinking about maybe Israel Adesanya, but remember, Israel Adesanya did lose to Jan Blachowicz when he tried to go for the champ status. I couldn't put Volkanovski in there because Volkanovski only fought once. Moreno only fought once. Ngannou only fought once. Blachowicz lost to Glover Teixeira. Who else is up there? I said featherweight. I said, what's it called? I can't even put Peter Yan because Peter Yan ended up illegal kneeing Aljamain Sterling, even though he was winning the majority of that fight. And I believe I cover everything else, as for the males. So yeah, those are the only two competent qualifiers. And ESPN picked Kamaru Usman. All right. Yes, for female fight of the year, it was between Juliana Pena, because you saw what she did. Guys, you guys were killing it with the views. The last video of Juliana Pena shocking the world. Valentina Shevchenko and Rose Namajunas. Now, those are the 3 qualifiers that I put down, and ESPN thought that Juliana deserved because she ended up upsetting Amanda Nunes. Now, me personally, even though I had picked Juliana going into that fight to beat Amanda Nunes, just because Amanda has never fought at 135 in the last 2 years, and just know how much of a big weight cut that is and how much it depletes the body, I was very questionable about this because I'm like, what is ESPN doing? Have you not seen what Rose Namajunas, what Valentina Shevchenko have been doing in 2021? I get it. Juliana Pena defeated Amanda Nunes, but who else did she defeat outside of that? Sarah McMahon, who a lot of casuals, right? Maybe not even know who Sarah McMahon is. Yes, she's a very great wrestler in the 135 division, but that doesn't draw a lot of eyeballs. Amanda Nunes does. I get it. It's the most recent big fight that has happened, a recent upset, and I get why ESPN did it. Don't agree with that. Fight of the year. The qualifiers were Alexander Volkanovski, Gaethje versus Chandler, and I forgot what else was in contention for that. Somehow, some way. It was like Cater versus Holloway, right? Somehow, some way, the what's it called? ESPN ended up picking out Volkanovski versus Ortega. But mind you, Volkanovski was winning 97% of that fight. Brian was winning 3% of that fight, and when it went down to the floor, and when he was going in for the guillotine, when he was going in for the triangle choke, that was the only few parts of the fight when Ortega was winning the fight. Outside of that, Volkanovski was just smashing and dominating that fight. That's really not a fight of the year. Fight of the year is when it goes tit for tat, tit for tat, tit for tat, tit for tat. Right? That's not my fight of the year, but ESPN decides to pick that. And finish of the year, Pettis versus Horiguchi. Usman's knockout of Masvidal. Bahamondes wheel kick. Guys, they picked Pettis versus Horiguchi. I thought that was good. It was a good knockout, but to me, it doesn't go with what I was expecting. So yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think about ESPN's nominations of male fight of the year, female fight of the year, fight of the year, finish of the year. I'm gonna give you guys mine. All right. So Starting off first with male prospect of the year. I put it out on Twitter, right? I put it out there on Twitter for you guys. Lord, let's see. So male prospect of the year, Sean Brady. Sean Brady ended up fighting a couple of times this year. He ended up fighting at the UFC 259 card. Adrian Yanez, who's gotten 3 finishes in 3 fights, winning 3 performance bonuses. Tom Aspinall, who has looked pretty great, at heavyweight. I would have picked Chris Dawkins to put into that contention if he would have defeated Derek Lewis, but we ended up seeing what happened with Derek Lewis and Chris Dawkins. And Rafael Fiziev. Rafael Fiziev had a couple of good fights, His fight against Bobby Green. His fight that he had not that long ago with I gotta pull it up real quick. But I believe he's already had like 3 or 4 fights this year. Rafael Fiziev has been very, very active. And the votes that came in, and honestly, guys, it's Adrian Yanez, and I'm okay with that. And I picked Adrian Yanez for my male prospect of the year. Male prospect of the year, Yanez ends up having that great fight against Randy Costa, right? Which was the more recent. Which was I believe in July, if I'm not mistaken. Ended up fighting Davy Grant, which was a phenomenal fight. Davy Grant is very durable. He's very, up sound. He is gonna get in your face. He's not like Randy Costa, who's gonna burn himself out inside the first round. We saw what happened when Randy Costa fought Tony Kelly at UFC 269. Burned himself out. Wasn't able to do much with his tools once he got burnt out. And Tony Kelly just grappled him and just pinned him. Giannis looked phenomenal against Costa. Was getting defeated in the first 2 minutes of round 1, and then after that, he pulled it together and he was able to come out with the finish in round, I believe round 3, if I'm not mistaken. No, round 2, and then he fought Gustavo Lopez earlier in the year. Ends up knocking out Gustavo Lopez with the right hook, putting Lopez to sleep. I believe it was in round 3 also. So, guys, phenomenal fight. Phenomenal fights for Adrian Yanez. By the way, he had a split decision with Davy Grant. Didn't make any sense. I remember one judge ended up giving Davy Grant a 30-27 when he was losing pretty much every single round. But yeah, guys, Adrian Yanez is the male prospect of the year. All right. Now moving on to the female prospect of the year. All right. Now this was something I wanted to talk about because we had a couple of good ones. I mean, we got these ladies over here for female prospect of the year are something that we're gonna have to pay attention to moving forward because these ladies are phenomenal. All right. Erin Blanchfield, who just recently ended up fighting Miranda Maverick, who's looked phenomenal. Formerly known as Cheyenne Bay, she is now Cheyenne Velismas, going by her maiden name, Cheyenne Velismas. Manon Fiorito and King Casey O'Neill. All right. Now the votes are in. All right. Blanchfield just recently fought. She ended up fighting, like I said, Miranda Maverick. Cheyenne Velismas ended up looking very, very great in her recent fight. I believe that happened in November, if I'm not mistaken. She still wants to fight Montserrat Ruiz. Manon Fiorito looking dominant at 125. Cheyenne ended up getting a unanimous decision over Mallory Martin. Then she got the head kick on Gloria DePaula. Lost to Ruiz. If she would have fought Ruiz and lost this year, I couldn't have put Velismas onto the contention. But she fought Ruiz last year. I had to double check that. Fiorito, who is, I think, a monster. She is a monster coming in at 125. I think she's going to be something that Valentina's going to have to look at moving on forward. Because she's going to fight Jessica Ai come March 5th. But she defeated Myra Bonisova, defeated Tabitha Ricci, defeated Victoria Leonardo, who Victoria Leonardo is a very strong, durable woman. All right. Won by decision, knockout, and knockout. And then Obviously, we have King Casey O'Neill, who looked good against the Shevchenko sister, Antonina Shevchenko. Um, what's it called? She ended up fighting, I believe it was Laura. I can't pronounce the name. Procoplo. If I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. And then she fought Shanna Dobson earlier in the year, winning by ground and pound in round 2, a rear naked chokehold in round 3 against Laura Procoplo, and then winning by ground and pound in round 2 against Antonina Shevchenko. Ladies and gentlemen, it came close. All right, I had it between Fiorot versus Casey O'Neill, and my pick is King Casey O'Neill. All right, reason why I put King Casey O'Neill is because even though Fiorot looked dominant in her fights, she did fight a a strawweight in one of her fights. And the reason why it was hard for me to pick Fiorot is because Tabitha Ricci, she naturally is a strawweight. She sometimes could be considered an atomweight. And the size discrepancy between Ricci versus Fiorot, between that fight, was very large, and you were able to see that Ricci had no business fighting with Fiorot. She took the fight on short notice, and she just wanted to get in there, and I give her a lot of credit for that. But Casey O'Neill ends up fighting Valentina Shevchenko, who is a top 15, top 20 type of fighter. And Fiorot has, she's getting up there, fighting Myra Bornasova, and she's going to fight Jessica Ai coming up pretty soon. We'll see how her progression goes. But King Casey O'Neill is going to fight Roxanne Modafferi in her retirement fight. I think these two women over here, Fiorot and O'Neill, are going to be challenging into the top 5 by the ending of 2022. I believe Erin Blanchfield is something to look at in 2022 as well. I think she's going to be inside the top 10, top 5. And then Cheyenne Velismas, I have a feeling that she's going to be top 10 strawweight by the ending of the year of 2022. But all 4 ladies are very fun, exciting fighters to look forward to in 2022. Looking forward to see what's going to happen next for them. But yeah, female prospect of the year, King Casey O'Neill. All right, now moving on next to submission of the year. Now, submission of the year, in my opinion, I had to narrow it to 3 nominations. Adrian Muniz versus Jacare. All right, when he ended up fighting Jacare, I believe it was in Houston, if I'm not mistaken. That was the Derek Lewis Cyril Gane fight card. We also had Vicente Luque versus Tyron Woodley. That was at UFC 260. That was the card when Francis Ngannou ended up winning the title over Stipe Miocic. And it was a fight night, but it was Anthony Fluffy Hernandez versus Rodolfo Vieira, right? Now, Luque ended up going for the dart stroke, putting Woodley to sleep. This was the first time we actually seen Woodley get very active, very aggressive, starting off a fight in I don't know how long, because he's always been very hesitant to explode. He's always like preserving his energy and then exploding in weird moments. We had Andre Muniz, who ended up breaking the arm of Jacare Souza, who Jacare is a phenomenal submission artist, but Muniz went in there thinking that, you know what, I'm just way better than you, and he just broke his arm, and that was that. Jacare is done. Jacare hasn't fought since. I believe he has retired, and Andre Muniz has gone on to win a couple of matches since that fight. And we have Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, who was getting to a match against Rodolfo Vieira, who came into the fight undefeated, if I'm not mistaken, who is a national Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt champion, all right, who can put you to sleep with various different submissions. And Anthony Fluffy Hernandez was able to go for the rear naked chokehold and was able to submit Rodolfo Vieira. And my pick, you guys, is Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, because the betting odds were like minus 1,500 for Anthony Hernandez to submit Rodolfo Vieira. That is astronomical. That is Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes type of betting odds, and the fact that Hernandez was able to put him to sleep, making him tap out before he was able to go to sleep, is just mind-boggling. It's just mind-boggling, guys. Wow. Anthony Hernandez ends up putting to sleep Rodolfo Vieira. Wow, that's crazy. It's crazy. And that's my submission of the year. Knockout of the year, all right? I narrowed it to 4, all right? I narrowed it to Usman versus knocking out Masvidal at UFC 261. Bahamondes going with the wheel kick on Roosevelt Roberts in round 3. I had Derek Lewis versus Curtis Blades in that fight night in February when Lewis ends up uppercutting Blades, shooting in for a takedown. And then I had Corey Sandhagen throwing the flying knee on Frankie Edgar. And the votes are in, and the votes conclude as Bahamondes wheel kick on Roosevelt Roberts. It was very close. I did feel like Masvidal was and the Usman Masvidal knockout was gonna win it, but I just think the perfection of the spin kick, the wheel kick, that ends up landing on Roosevelt Roberts, and the way that Roberts ended up collapsing onto the floor after receiving that wheel kick was just phenomenal. You don't see it that often. We saw last year winning. The knockout of the year was Joaquin Buckley doing that ninja kick, on Impa Kasanganov. But that Bahamondes wheel kick, that's phenomenal. That kid's going to be something to look forward to in his next fight. I know he fights at lightweight, and lightweight is loaded. But if this guy can pull off a lot of highlight reel knockouts at lightweight, he might get a fast track push to excel into the top 15. But the sky's the limit for Ignacio Bahamondes. All right. Next, we have Female Fighter of the Year. All right, so I told you guys the 3 nominations were Valentina Shevchenko, Juliana Pena, and Doug Rose Namajunas. Okay, I don't have Juliana Pena as my Female Fighter of the Year. Just felt like she needed to fight somebody, at least get one more fight. Then I think it would have been a lot easier decision to put her in there. But the fact that she's only fought Sarah McMahon and Amanda Nunes, I understand it's not her fault that she's only fought twice, because they were supposed to fight originally in August, but Amanda got COVID. I thought about it with Rose, but the second fight, it was a little bit more technical, okay, and she was able to use a little more for Arsenal in her grappling. The first fight between Rose and Wei Lee, phenomenal knockout. The kick dropped in a surprise, Wei Lee, because she was trying to, block a leg kick, and she just didn't see that kick coming. But I had to go with Valentina Shevchenko, and here's why. Valentina Shevchenko ends up submitting. I believe she's the first person to finish Jessica Andrade. Now, Jessica Andrade is a pit bull. She's hard to take down. She's hard to submit. She's hard to knock out. She's hard to just, control. And going into that fight, the Andrade camp was, exposing, saying Valentina can't grapple. Her wrestling isn't that great. And Valentina took it upon herself, and she took it very personal. And she was like, you know what? Fine. You think my wrestling is that bad? I'm going to wrestle you to death. And she ends up, tiring out. She ends up tiring out Jessica Andrade and finishing her. All right, and I believe it was like round 2 or round 3, something that we haven't seen against Jessica Andrade, forcing actually Jessica Andrade to now go down to 115 because she wants to have the rematch with Rose Namajunas, which is actually not a bad idea whatsoever. All right, and then she ends up ending the 7-fight win streak of Lauren Murphy, making her get finished inside the second round or third round. And it's something that, Valentina looked immortal against Jennifer Maia, but she dominated those two ladies, and she is the king of 125. She is the fighter of the year. She is the pound for pound fighter currently right now. She's the number 1 ranked female fighter in the world. She is the fighter of the year for Four Corner Sports. Right now, going into male fighter of the year. Now, I had to nominate it between 3 people because I just felt like it was a need to just put a third option. I put Charles Oliveira, Kamaru Usman, and Islam Makhachev. Now, I know you guys didn't say why put Islam. I know he fought Thiago Moises. I know he ended up fighting Drew Dober, and he fought Dan Hooker. Looked great in all those fights. I just couldn't put him as fighter of the year because of the fact that if he would have fought for the title, then it could have been very easy. Charles Oliveira fought twice. There was adversities in both fights, in the Chandler fight and the Dustin Poirier fight. Poirier, was trying to go for the finish, and Oliveira ended up eating so much damage. And what's it called? With the Usman in all three fights, it was adversity in one fight, but it was just for like a smidge second. But Usman dominated in every single one of his fights for the most part. Looked a little bit mortal in the Colby Covington fight, because Colby was just finds, the guy doesn't get tired, and he's the only person in the world, in my opinion, that can get, Kamaru Usman to be a little bit more mortal than anything else. And my fight of the year is Kamaru Usman. Now, guys, lastly, I saved the best for last, the fight of the year. The nominations are Edson Barboza versus Shane Burgos, Justin Gaethje versus Michael Chandler, okay, Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez, and last but not least, Corey Sandhagen versus Peter Yan. Now, it was close. Peter Yan versus Corey Sandhagen was a very phenomenal technical fight. It didn't come through. Barboza versus Shane Burgos was a phenomenal fight. Fortunately, it got slept on a lot. And just a lot of people remembered the fact that Burgos ends up collapsing after shaking his head after eating so much damage from Edson Barboza. Yair Rodriguez versus Max Holloway was one of the better fights of 2021. But obviously, you guys know what it is. Justin Gaethje versus Michael Chandler is your fight of the year. It lived up to the hype. It lived up to the expectations. It was a crazy round one. It was a very exciting round one. Chandler was just willing to accept all damage. He wanted all the smoke. Same thing as Justin Gaethje. And it got more in heist because of the fact it was in Madison Square Garden and the crowd was rocking. Everybody was thumping. Everybody was enjoying the fact that we were seeing two of the most exciting fighters in the UFC going at it. And it did not disappoint. But yeah, guys, that's my nominations for Male Fight of the Year, Female Fight of the Year, Submission of the Year, Knockout of the Year, Fight of the Year, Male Prospect of the Year, and Female Prospect of the Year. All right? Usman, Male Fight of the Year. Valentina, Female Fight of the Year. Fight of the Year is Gaethje versus Chandler. Knockout of the Year is Bahamondes wheel kick over Roosevelt Roberts. Submission of the Year is Anthony Fluffy Hernandez submitting Rodolfo Vieira. We have the Female Prospect of the Year is King Casey O'Neill. And the Male Prospect of the Year is Adrian Yanez. Until then, guys, I am Flavio Oriana. Happy New Year, guys. This is the final episode of 2021. I'll see you guys in 2022. Please enjoy the New Year's, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace, guys, and have a good one. See ya.